All right, so why don't we get started here. Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Adam Berezin from MS Dynamics World. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us for today's event, Integrate or Die, Complex Integrations Made Simple for Dynamics NAV and D365 Business Central. Our presenters today are Alicia Bement and Chris Dew, both from eOne Solutions. We're very happy to have both of them here with us today. Right before we get started, just want to let everybody know you can submit any questions you have during the session through the Q&A box on the right side of your screen, and our presenters will try to get to all of them at the end of the event. So without further delay, I'm going to pass it over to Alicia.
Thanks, Adam, and welcome everybody. And thanks for taking the time today to learn about how you can handle all your Dynamics NAV and Dynamics 365 Business Central integrations without code. Like Adam said, my name is Alicia Bement, and I'm the NAV Channel Manager here at eOne, and I'm excited to help you deliver a plan to future-proof your integrations.
Oh, hey, I'm here to help.
Why, Cortana, hello. I forgot to turn you off, but please do share. I'm really interested in your AI perspective.
In the last 5-6 years, Microsoft has released many connectors. Oftentimes, they did not work. Microsoft are aware that our marketing is ahead of the technology. People also use non-Microsoft technology. The future of ERP is integration. It's vitally important that you connect your systems. Your challenge is to integrate or die.
Wow, Cortana, you're spot on. And you know the other reason people are here?
I don't have the answer to your question, but I am learning.
Cortana and everyone, I suspect the biggest reason everyone is on this call is because integration can be difficult. It can be expensive, and it can get complicated very quickly. And why is that? People struggle with delivering integration well, especially if it's custom. We have 20+ years of experience with ERP and CRM integration, and I want to dive into this because we see these issues often. Let's talk about why people struggle with integrations. First, and especially for Dynamics NAV, you've made integrations a developer problem. Developers are usually specialized, they should be allocated to the most complex projects, and they are expensive. If you're planning to have your developer write custom code for your integrations, consider the risks and what that means for your project timeline. Think about what it's going to require when you need to make changes to those integrations, upgrade those systems, or what you'll need to do when that developer leaves your team. The second reason people struggle with integration is you're not an expert for all the APIs you need to connect NAV with. We have customers who've automated integrations between NAV and applications like Concur, Zendesk, and other cloud apps that their team loves to use. So here's the thing. Every application with an API layer, which provides the proper method to talk with that system, is unique. If you're going to use custom code, you're going to need to spend hours or days learning about each one in order to properly integrate with it. And that's a really big challenge for most people. All right, let's talk about the third reason people struggle. Who likes puppies? We do a lot of work through our partner channel, and one of our partners provided this analogy. Microsoft's integration options are like a free puppy. The starting price, or in some cases free, looks good on the outside, but there are hidden costs. That freemium option is actually going to require a developer to make it work, and you're going to chew through a lot of a budget quickly. Our recommendation is don't go for the free puppy. You'll spend a lot of time figuring out that you don't fit into Microsoft's idea of the way all businesses work. The plan we're proposing is to use SmartConnect, which is going to allow you to deliver your integrations on time, within budget, and say yes to your specific integration requirements. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Chris Dew, who is going to give you a quick demo of Dynamics NAV integration between a few systems, which will be powered by SmartConnect. The scenarios he'll highlight will mainly be to get you thinking. The bottom line is you'll see how you can truly deliver on all the integrations you need with Dynamics NAV and Business Central without code, or even a little code if you'd like. You'll see how SmartConnect offers an interface that a business analyst could use to create integrations, but we have a lot of things built in that developers love to be able to handle those more complex scenarios. Chris, I'll pass the presenter rights over to you, and after you're done with your demo, we'll come back to pricing and Q&A at the end.
Even though I get to do a bit more of the technical part of this demo, I wanted to get in on the PowerPoint action. So I have one PowerPoint for you. This is kind of a nice visual because it points out a couple things. It looks really busy, but let me explain it to you. At the end of the day, right, we have some kind of data that needs to go into, obviously, NAV, right, is one of the areas we're talking about. And so if we look at this first section, we can basically take any type of data, whether it be maybe a traditional text file or Excel file, or an ODBC source, or maybe it's an integration with, like Alicia said, maybe a Dynamics 365 CRM, or maybe it's a Salesforce, or maybe it's some of these new cloud applications. And we're going to talk a bit more about that because that's becoming more and more prevalent as we evolve in the cloud. So that's any kind of data source, but we can also bring information into other destinations. So while the main focus of this session is bringing stuff into Dynamics NAV, we can also push information out of NAV into some of these other systems. And again, basically anything we can do, including some of those cloud apps. If we go into this middle section, the transformation, that's what I'm going to spend a little bit of time on in the demonstration later on. But we give you all those things that make it easy to connect the different systems and make sure that they are talking together. So that's what everything inside of there does. And then lastly, this triggers section, if I could say it with a few more words, I would probably say, when do you want your integration to run? So is this something that's a manual process? Is it something that we just keep track of changes in one system and then maybe send those changes through on a schedule? Or is it something that needs real-time interaction between multiple systems? So we can talk about that. And again, if we do have any developers on the call, there's a couple of goodies in here, right? Where while we may tease our developers a little bit today, we also do have the tools that you can actually use our own API to manage all kinds of APIs. So there we go. There's my PowerPoint presentation. One slide. All right. Let's jump right in. And we're not going to jump in where you normally would. We are going to jump into a cloud application right now. And this is called Zendesk. Zendesk is one of the most popular online ticketing, like a support desk or ticketing applications. And you will probably find that, a lot of the bigger corporations are using this for all of their support. Maybe you're chatting with them on the website or whatever. A lot of that is all being driven by Zendesk. And so we're going to start inside of this because this is where we live today, right, in the cloud. And so we're going to start with putting a new ticket in. Again, I probably would normally do this through a website that, just a little thing saying, hey, I have a problem with something. I'm right inside the application. So we'll do a new ticket inside of Zendesk. All right, I just got to get the right person. There we go. Okay. We're going to assign it to our support departments right away. We'll put it to Chris Hansen in support. And we need something going on. And so we can maybe say, my IT team, I have a report that is off by fractions of a penny. All right, and again, if we wanted, we could put some additional detail down here. I'll just copy and paste it. All right, the key I want to bring this to is I've just created a new support case, right? if this went through my whole chain, right, where it was resolved and then at the end maybe closed out, well, what do we do with that data next? And that's where we're going to pick it up inside of Dynamics NAV. And I got to take one little stop into SmartConnect, because that's what Alicia said we're going to be talking about today. And I just need to run this one map. So let me go ahead and do that. I am going to bring in all the new tickets that have come in. So we're going to be bringing these in as invoices, because now that we've addressed the problems, now we need to maybe invoice the customer for that time. So we can see we have 10 tickets that came in from there. If we go inside of NAV right now, we can just see that, hey, there we go. There's those 10 tickets. If we look at the last one, I believe that's going to be the one that we just entered. And there we go. Here we have an invoice inside of NAV saying, here's one line item on it that this is for the case where we're paying for, solving the report is fractions of a penny off. And again, here's the $200 charge. So I just wanted you to understand how, again, we're able to, instead of re-entering that information and maybe, having humans in the middle making mistakes, we're now able to grab that information directly from that Zendesk cloud app and bring it into NAV. One of the first things I did before I could create the invoice, obviously, was I had to create the customer inside of the system. So let's drill back on the customer that was created. If we drill back on our Moscow Mules, we must have somebody that's a fan of that at our company. You can see that there wasn't very much information about that customer brought in. So let's go ahead and make some up. So I'll just edit. I'll edit it first. There we go. All right, I'll put us an address. We'll just make that beautiful Fargo, North Dakota, which it actually is a very nice day in Fargo, North Dakota today, so I'm happy I can say that. And that's probably enough information for now, so I'll hit OK on this. What I want to show next, though, is that, like I said, while we're bringing some information into NAV, I'm also able to send that information that was just entered inside of NAV, that new customer that was created, I'm able to send that to other systems. Well, why is that important? Possibly because we may not have everybody at our company may not be allowed inside of the accounting system, right? So we may have salespeople that need to see some of this information. We may have, maybe an e-commerce or website that needs to have access to this information. We can send that information from NAV to do that. So let's go ahead and log into one of those systems. I happen to have on here as part of the demo system, I happen to have Dynamics CRM or Dynamics 365. And if we go ahead and click on D, there we go. We have our that account or customer just came in. If we drill back on it now, the fun part is we can see that sure enough, there's the address information I just entered inside of NAV. So if I wanted to, from this system, I could also make some changes, right? So inside of CRM now, I could maybe make an address change and maybe put in, an updated phone number. And so this is the part that I want you to understand is I now have that ability to take this information, again, that was sent originally from NAV over to here. I can make changes in it, and if this person has, the proper permissions, or we allow them to send updates back to NAV, we can do that. And so in my demo, that's exactly what I've done. These little changes that I've made to the address, I wanted to see them inside of NAV. And so when I go back inside of NAV, I'll just drill back on this customer again. Okay, looks like that system's being a little slow right now. We'll wait for it for a second. We should be able to see that the changes have been made to that address inside of NAV. Let's try it one more time here. Okay, there we go. It's like we were just faster than the CRM system. So now our address has been changed, and now we have some phone information. Just trying to get you thinking, because I may not be showing you the scenario of exactly what you have, but I want you to start thinking about cloud applications. I spoke with a person at a conference and I was asking how they were utilizing the cloud. He's like, "Oh, we don't really. All of our stuff is on premise." And then he thought about it for 10 more seconds and he says, "You know what? I'm not telling you the truth. I have this scenario where I'm actually pulling some tax information from a cloud service. And I'm also pulling some shipping address verification. And you know what? I'm pulling, and he had 5 different things that he said, wow, we have to have a developer do all of those things. And it becomes very complex. So I just wanted to get you thinking about how we can do those types of scenarios. So let's, where did my mouse go? Okay, the mouse is back. Sorry about that. Thank you. All right. So now if we jump out of NAV entirely for just a second, and let's go jump into some other types of scenarios. And that is, you may not have these cloud applications, but you may have some kind of a need to take information that is coming possibly from a cloud. Again, a lot of people have a different definition of cloud, but even internally, we use an outsourced payroll. So I might need to take those payroll entries and I need to bring it in as a general journal into NAV. And we have some templates like this that you can actually set it up in a pretty way. In this one, right, we have some of the same things that you would be familiar with inside of the NAV interface, being able to pick our account types, actually having the account numbers pulling from NAV. And so that's actually pulling from the NAV system using the web services. And again, just all these things are built in to make sure we're putting in good data. And right from here, I can choose to push this in. What this has just done is this actually did a push right from Excel, right through SmartConnect, and into NAV. And we'll go back and look at that in just one second. A lot of people, though, say, hey, I don't necessarily want to use a pretty template like you provided. I have my own template, or I just really need to paste in a huge amount of transactions. Well, we've given you a ton of these to start. And this is more what we'd just be used to with just a simple, plain old Excel sheet. And so you can take any kind of data and we can push that information through. And we have, as you can see here, an Excel add-in that allows you to take whatever your Excel sheet may be and run it through the map inside of SmartConnect. And we'll talk about the mapping in just a second. Let me show you an example, though, of a scenario that I do have around that. I have, let's say, I have somebody that's managing those tickets, right, our Zendesk tickets. And so maybe I have, here's some of my active tickets, and these are not invoices, but these are actually sales orders inside of NAV. I was able to pull that data directly from NAV, but maybe there's something that needs to be resolved, right? Maybe this ticket is been in contention. And so we determined that, hey, you know what, we're actually going to reduce the charge on this one. We'll reduce the charge to $50, right, instead of $100. And now I have the ability, this is what I wanted to show you, is right from here, I can push in these changes. And so I can give an interface that's very, very simple, right? This has 5 or 6 fields, but this has actually gone through and pushed this information. If we go back into NAV and look at our sales orders, I did it for Mountain Dew. And if we look at Mountain Dew now, we can see that the price has been changed on this from $50 to $100 because of what we did. So we were able to make those changes to actually pull data from NAV and then push it back using SmartConnect. All right, there's a couple other scenarios. I said I would come back to the general journal, so let's do that just quickly, just to show you exactly what came in. And here you can see, it looks like I hit the button a couple times when I was testing this. Here is the transaction that came in for $1,000 for the first account and $500 for the other two. So this is how easy it is to manage some of those things. But let's do this now. Let's jump in and really dig into how this is all pulled together. So if we go back into SmartConnect, and I'll show you right inside of this map that brought in the invoices from Zendesk. And that's one of the things we're talking about, cloud applications. This is Zendesk, but other ones, like I previously mentioned ADP or a lot of expense management ones, things like Concur or Expensify or Gorilla Expense. Or there's probably 1,000 of them out there, and all kinds of ones I haven't even heard of yet. So all of those have an API. And let me translate for you. If you are not a developer, API basically means two things. It means developers, and it means dollars. You're going to spend a lot of time and money anytime you have to connect to these things. SmartConnect gives you an interface that you don't necessarily have to be a developer to manage all those relationships with those APIs. So that's what we're tapping into today. We're taking the Zendesk API that's just sitting right inside of SmartConnect, and we're able to pull back, in this case, a list of all the tickets that have met the criteria that I put inside of here. So here is, again, the last couple of tickets. If we look at them, this was the report that is off by fractions of a penny. So that becomes our data source. Now, I want to point out a couple things about the data source in this case. I'm using a bulk data source, basically just saying, give me everything that meets the criteria. But I could also set something to a change or a real-time data source if it meets the requirements. And so I just wanted to point that out. Now, another thing, I think a lot of you are familiar with maybe an Excel type of integration in the past. And so we certainly have that, or text files or XML files. But you can also connect directly to NAV, or you can connect to CRM or Salesforce, or anything with an ODBC connection, right? Like I said before, or anything with those web services, REST web services. So that's where you can set up everything inside of there. This is a unique one because I've actually allowed for a multi-data source that allows me to pull information from more than one data source, right? That could be, one piece of data could be sitting in Excel, but another piece of information could be sitting inside of NAV, or then maybe one other piece is sitting out in a web service. I could pull all those together without needing a developer to create a bunch of staging tables for me, because it does that exactly on what I need. So that becomes my data source. Now we need to say, where is it going inside the system? So a lot of the same types of things, right? The same types of destinations, where if we want to send it to NAV or a CRM system or Salesforce system, or export it to file, we can do all those things. When we pick NAV inside of here, everything that has been published as a web service inside of NAV is going to be available. So I have, looks like I have 20, 30 of them. But if these are not the ones that you're doing, right, if you're doing some more manufacturing or whatever it may be, all you have to do is enable those, and SmartConnect is going to pick it up. And here's the key thing, right? It will give you the same business logic that you're getting just as if you entered that transaction through the NAV interface. So that's important. In this case, we've pulled up the sales invoice inside of here. That's what we're using, that web service. And let's go look at a couple of the parts. If I click on this, this is our main mapping. This is pretty simple once you understand what you're looking at. Everything on this left-hand side is coming from your data source. So whatever that might be, whether it's a text file or a SQL table, whatever you have is going to be showing over here. Everything on the right-hand side, however, changes with whatever the destination may be. So in this case, it's the Dynamics NAV sales invoice. So we're seeing all those same fields that we would see just like you would see it inside a NAV. And again, if you have made customizations to NAV, right? If you've had a developer, a NAV developer that has given you some page modifications, you're going to see those in here as well. So that's the beauty of this is it's not concrete at all. It is something that it will transform to your business. Okay, here is the interface though. You can see I have a couple of things, we call this mapping. I have a couple of things mapped when I'm creating that sales invoice. Here's how easy it is to do. From the left, you can just drag, you click on a field, and you drag it over to whatever field you want on the right-hand side. Now we can see in my sell to city, I have tickets ID mapped. You can also just pick it from a drop-down list, right? So if I wanted to switch that to organization's name, I could do that. And if I don't want it mapped anymore, I simply click on it and hit delete. That's a pretty I can't say it today. It's a pretty easy to use interface that, again, you don't necessarily need to be a developer to handle. So let's look at some of the fields, right? I've mapped the sell to customer name, so that's coming from that customer that I created earlier. But I have, if you look down here, if you have a sharp eye, I have one field for the date that says date calc. Well, I don't have that field in my data source. Where is that coming from? So that's a little lie I told you earlier. Right? I said everything on this left-hand side was coming from the data source. Not quite true. I actually have two transformations, and that's where a lot of the power of SmartConnect comes in, because you can make those transformations as needed. So if we look at this, I have this calculated field for the date. Well, why do I have that? Here's why. The date that is coming from the Zendesk won't work to put inside a NAV. And so what I needed to do is I needed to strip off some superfluous information, right? There was some extra timestamp information that was at the end of it that I can't use. And so I have this little function inside of here that basically took the field. Okay, so I should explain that. Right, here's all my fields coming from the data. I basically took this tickets created at field, and I ran it through this function to strip off all of that extra information. So that now becomes a calculated field, and I'm able to map that just like any of the other fields. So that's pretty easy to do. There's a lot of other things you can do, like translations between systems. Those are all in there and allow you to do that. Okay, let's look at the line now, right? This is where we brought in the ticket information that came from that Zendesk ticket, and we brought it into each line item. So if we look at what we have mapped in here, there's a couple of other unique things. You'll see now that if I look at this type that's being brought in, I have it set to item. Well, this is exactly what we would see inside of the NAV interface, right? We're able to expose those exact same things that are inside of there. Like I said, we're not recreating the wheel. We are using the business objects that are already there for us. Okay, so that's some of the list options. If we look at another thing I have, right, the quantity, I just basically said it's always going to be one ticket, and so I'm bringing in one at a time. And that's how easy it is to just, if you need, sometimes, again, I've been doing integrations myself for over 20 years. Sometimes you don't have all the data that you need. And so this allows us to maybe make something that if it's always going to be brought in this way, we can make that as one of our standards. Okay, so that's one of them. Additionally, why did it say $200? Well, that's because I brought it in that way. So this is always set to, whenever I bring in any ticket from Zendesk, it's going to bring it in as $200. So that's really what we needed to see on there. So this becomes our mapping, right? And that's what it basically takes the data out of that web service and brings it into the NAV pages, just like you would experience on your own. Okay, let's talk about a few more things here, though. There's a lot of people that need to do different tasks when you're bringing this information in. Like I said, maybe on this one, before I bring in the invoices, maybe I need to make sure that that customer exists inside of NAV. And so I might have, like you can see up here, I have a couple tasks that run before the map, and one of them might be to actually run a map that creates those customers inside of the system. So I've disabled those tasks. Actually, you can see I've disabled that, but that's one that would do exactly that. It would create the accounts. We can also put stuff on after the map runs or on each document. And if we look at the after, we can do stuff that runs when a map fails or if it succeeds. Now, you will have failures. I guarantee you this, because even the best designed integration will experience from time to time maybe an issue with some bad data, or maybe something isn't set up right. Like I just mentioned, a customer, maybe you're trying to bring in invoices and that customer doesn't exist. So from time to time, you will need to see that information. And here's a task, one of the tasks I have set up that does exactly that. It allows me to send an email. Now, this is actually a wizard. If you want to do this on your own, I'll just show you. Basically, it would prompt you through what's the email it's coming from and going to. And I won't fill those in for now, but here's the good stuff. It tells me in this email the map that ran, the date, the time, and here's the most important, it gives me a list of errors. So if I had 1,000 of these records coming in and 3 of them failed, I'm going to get an email with those 3 errors. They're going to be the errors coming from NAV, and they're going to say, you need to go fix this. So we'll come back in just a couple of minutes, and I'll talk about where you might fix that in the interface. Other tasks that can be done inside of here that are really popular, like I said, you can chain maps together, or even, again, for the developers that I haven't angered, you can write .NET script in here. So you can do a little bit of C#, a little bit of VB.NET, and you can do some incredibly powerful things, even importing other assemblies and DLLs for utilization. Okay, so those are some of the key things, but I talked about quite a bit earlier, we talked about how can I run this. So if I did this the first time, I just hit the run button, right? That was a manual process that I could do either through this rich interface or even through our web client. But a lot of people will set this up to say, hey, I only need to bring in these invoices once a day or maybe once a week. Well, that is built inside of SmartConnect, where you can choose how often you want to bring this in, daily, weekly, monthly. You can pick the time of day you want it to run. So if it's something that runs at 2 in the morning or 10 at night, or maybe it runs all day long. And so in my case, I'm starting it at 8 in the morning, and maybe I want to repeat it every hour. So I could bring in the tickets for invoice every hour, and if I wanted to, I could say how many minutes, or I could say just run this till 6 o'clock tonight. And so now when I hit save on this, I now have a process that would run this map automatically. Nobody logged into NAV, nobody logged into SmartConnect. It's going to automatically process, grab that information from those Zendesk tickets and bring it into NAV. So that's some pretty cool stuff there. Okay, the last thing, and then I think we'll get it. We'll get things. We'll bring it back to a couple slides that Alicia has. Error handling is incredibly key. And you'll see here I have a list of some of the maps that I have logging turned on. And so I can go and I can see, for example, here's some maps I had that were bringing CRM information into the NAV customers. If I go ahead, I can see the individual runs. So it looks like I ran that one quite a few times, but I'm getting some errors on a few of these. So if I pull up the record, and if I hover over this, I can see it's telling me the reason it didn't create the customer is that the country or region code, let me do that again, it contains a value, u.s. that cannot be found in the related table, the country region. So that's an exact error coming back from NAV. And what you can do is I could fix the data right inside of here. Or if it made sense that I didn't have this set up, I could go add that information inside of NAV and then say, I want to now resubmit this record. And so that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this one record. Maybe I had 1,000 or 100 or 5,000 that I was bringing in, but that's the only one that failed because it had maybe a different format for the country. Now I'm able to, as we'll see, it brought in that one record, now came in successfully. And so this is a great interface that's available in both, like I said, the web client as well as this rich client. So you can give people access to go look at the errors and actually make changes and resubmit just the error without having to fumble through maybe finding it in 1,000 records in a text file. It's only going to give you the ones that have errored out. So I think that's kind of a key piece of integrations. All right. Well, I think that's a good, quick little overview of what was driving some of those things behind the scenes, taking that information. Again, our business case scenario was taking that information from Zendesk, those tickets, a cloud application, moving it into NAV, and then from NAV actually pushing that into other systems. So I showed it actually going into Dynamics CRM and showed information from CRM going into NAV based on when I wanted to send it. But what I didn't show you, and I actually had in there, I sent it to Salesforce at the exact same time. So SmartConnect is able to handle all those scenarios, and again, you'll see it's a very flexible tool for your business. They can handle some of those developer tasks, but some of the mundane things that you maybe have to do today, I think you'll find it'll make your job just a little bit easier if you use some of those Excel templates as well. All right, Alicia, do you want to take control again and wrap it up with a couple of slides?
Definitely, I can do that. And thanks for that great demo, Chris. All right, and just touching a little bit more on what you had just finished with is we really wanted to show the importance of keeping all your systems connected. And just a reminder, we only showed 1 or 2 scenarios there, but I really want to challenge you on thinking outside of these scenarios and think about how you can use SmartConnect to get your integrations in place faster. So we promise that SmartConnect is a tool that can help keep your project within budget. So with that being said, we wanted to share our pricing. We try to keep our pricing simple and easy to understand. We offer 2 ways to purchase SmartConnect. SmartConnect can be purchased as a perpetual license for $4,500 plus an annual maintenance, or it can be purchased as a monthly subscription for $267 a month. And one thing just to mention here too, this is US pricing. We do have price points for various countries outside of the US. So if you are interested in that, certainly feel free. I'll put my contact information up at the end and I can send you the full price list. In both cases though, we include a full feature set. So that means that we include all the integration points, the connectors and the adapters. So you can integrate with Dynamics NAV, Dynamics 365 Business Central, many types of files, databases, etc. So we offer a ton of templates as well for different scenarios like importing from Excel to journal entries in NAV, for CRM NAV integrations. All of our templates are available to use at no cost and are meant to be a great starting point for you, and they can also be further configured. I can also pull up that template place where we are able to see that on the website here, just so you're aware. So on our website, underneath the SmartConnect page, we do have a full list of our integration templates there as well. So you can see that we do have a lot of them to help you get started right out of the gate there. So just so you know where to find those. The other thing with SmartConnect, if we flip back to my PowerPoint, we also include 4 installs of SmartConnect. So SmartConnect requires a Windows environment. So you can put it in Azure or locally in your test, dev, live, UAT environment, and create as many integrations as you'd like. And that really concludes what we were looking to show you today. As next steps, here's what I'd recommend if you have an upcoming Dynamics NAV or D365 Business Central integration project. You can learn more about SmartConnect on one of our upcoming deep dive demos. You can also contact us to learn more about our partnership options and to discuss your integration requirements. And know that you can integrate with all standard and custom data in NAV, but we'd love to learn more about your specific project and provide guidance on how SmartConnect can help there. And last, you can also become an integration expert with training. With a little bit of training, you have a lot of power with SmartConnect to handle many different scenarios. We deliver training both online and in person, and we have some great options available so you can get up to speed quickly and confidently deliver and manage those integrations. So, with that being said, I really hope that you found this session valuable, and at this point, I hope you're thinking and have an integration plan in mind. So, right now, let's open it up and see if we have gotten anybody thinking or have any questions that they'd like answered, and we'll take a look at your questions.
Yeah, we do.
And while we're doing that, I'll also put up my contact information. Sorry about that, Chris.
Nope, sounds good. I was just going to say we do have a couple coming in, so that's good. But yeah, get your questions using the Q&A panel as part of the WebEx, and we'll get to them. Okay, one of the questions that came in is saying, does the map have to run manually or can it be scheduled? They may have asked that before I had shown the part where it could be scheduled, because that was probably 10 minutes later. But yes, you have the ability to schedule any of those maps, or again, even some of the ones I had running real time when I was sending information to and from Dynamics 365 back to NAV. So you have options on if you want to schedule them or run them real time or have it be a manual process. Good question. We have another question asking if it requires a NAV license. This is basically utilizing the same, these are Microsoft's business objects, right? So it is using the NAV web services. So it is the exact same license that you would be using if you were pulling information into NAV, or if you had even used the standard, the free connector, the free puppy, as Alicia talked about before, of connecting their Dynamics 365 to financials. So there's not a special license that's required. It's not like a full-time user that has to be in there. It just has, you obviously have to have a license, but there's nothing outside of that scope. Good question. Question asking about multi-company and multi-tenant NAV environments. Yeah, what we didn't really show you, there's a companies button in the map that we had, and that actually, I have 3 companies set up in this environment, and so you can send stuff to whichever company you want. You can even take a piece of data and have it go automatically from one map. I can have it go to the proper company. So that is an option. As far as multi-tenant, yeah, we just have to be able to be connected to the right place. In our connector setup, you just have to have the right place for connecting to the other tenants, and you'll be able to utilize that as well. Good question. Okay. Can we set it up to call an external tax web service during data entry and update the tax information in NAV? This is an interesting question, because it sounds like you're talking about from the NAV interface. You actually want to be able to call a web service, and so this is where you might need a developer, right? This is where you might need a NAV developer, because you're making customizations inside of NAV. Everything we have shown you before was really not making customizations or changes in NAV. We're just able to work with that data. But if you want something in NAV that changes that, we can certainly, you could call our web service and have it point to whatever that tax web service is. You could do that, but somebody is still going to have to make that customization probably to do that inside of NAV, unless you're okay with having it happen behind the scenes. Because we could, as soon as you save that information, we could then go and have it do that behind the scenes. So depending on what option you wanted. All right. This little window's really tiny sometimes in this question and answer section. All right, can you import serialized item quantities into D365? Microsoft said they can't do it, but a node could be built. Could you do that in SmartConnect? Serialized item quantities. I'd have to look into that one. I'm curious why they say they couldn't. If it's available in the page for us to do, we should be able to do it. I can't say that I've done that one specifically, but we could go ahead and we could follow up with you on that one very specifically. I believe, I mean, my belief is that that page would support that, and so as long as that is the case, we should be able to use that right within inside of SmartConnect. But yes, we'll make it a point to follow up with you on that one. Okay, we got another, let's see, another question is saying, so how much code did you actually write to make this whole integration that you showed work? Well, literally, it's one line of code. You saw it. I pointed to that calculated field. That was as simple, in that example, was a VB.NET script that basically ran a function to format the date and what we needed. That is really all that was, the only script that was bringing that whole demo together. Everything else was SmartConnect doing its job. Okay, we got another question actually asking which versions of NAV does this work with, and also does it work with Business Central? Okay, good question. We have people going back to 2009. So 2009 is kind of the key. That's when they first started bringing in the web services that we utilize for the business objects. Prior to that, basically you're probably at a SQL level, which is not the most desired case. But basically 2009 on up to 2018, we specifically mentioned Business Central. We have connected to the precursor to that, financials, and Business Central, we're just undergoing the last testing of that. I think it's actually, I've seen it working, but the key for me is we might need to put a new release out that has the new branding, right? Microsoft changes their names almost as often as they change underwear. So we just need to make sure that we get the new Business Central name in there instead of financials like it used to be. Okay, let's see, is there one more that came in? Okay, we got another question asking if we will have D365 project service automation to NAV template. That is actually, I believe, one of the things on our list. Microsoft had approached us a couple years ago because their own tools couldn't do it, but we did some stuff around field service in D365, and I think we're going to turn around and do that for the project service piece as well. So while I don't believe we have that template, and Katie and Alicia can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we have that one on the website today. It is something that is on the docket for the future. There's nothing preventing you from doing it today. You just have to do a little bit of the legwork of connecting to those entities on the D365 side and to where it needs to go into NAV.
Yep, and as far as timing for that, we're looking at early fall to have the D365 project service automation to NAV and also with Business Central template ready to go.
Well, there you go. All right, and I think that's all the questions I have. Did you guys see any more questions, or was there anything, Adam, on the chat or anything that we're missing?
Let me check that right now. Somebody's asking if they're going to get a link to the webinar, and the answer to that is yes, probably in the next couple of days.
There you go. Yeah, so it has been recorded.
Yeah, that seems to be it.
Oh, go ahead.
Correct. Yep.
It's been recorded. We'll send that out. Again, Alicia, if you have questions before you get that, you have Alicia's email right on the screen, and she'll point you. If she doesn't know the answer, which she does most of the time, she will find the right person for you.
Perfect. Sounds good. Well, I think that wraps up.
Yeah.
Wraps up the Q&A part, and thanks again. And if you guys have any questions, like Chris said, feel free to email myself or email into sales@eonesolutions.com. I'll get it either way. And thanks for joining us.